What's up, YouTube? Zazubaar here, and I'm here with GORIZARD6 again.
Hey, what's up?
And today we're going to be talking about the new Superman movie, The Man of Steel, which is going to hit theaters in December of 2013.
Actually, it's June. It was June 2013.
Oh, really? They switched it?
Originally the release date for Man of Steel was going to be Christmas 2012, but they pushed it back to, I believe, is June 2013.
Oh, geez, we got a long way to go then.
Yeah, so it's pretty far apart.
Yeah. So initial first reactions to when you heard that Christopher Nolan was going to make a Superman movie. What were your initial first reactions to that?
I thought we were going to get the same treatment as we got with Batman, a very dark, gritty, realistic version of Superman.
Mm-hmm.
And I thought he was going to direct it. I had no idea he was going to produce it. I thought he was, going to take the director's chair. And I was really excited to see what he was going to do with it. But then I heard he was actually going to produce it instead. And I thought, I guess that's good anyway. He's still going to supervise the film.
Yeah.
And watch over it.
Go on, sorry.
I think Christopher Nolan would be, I'm glad that Christopher Nolan is producing this film because in the past, the film Superman had a film producer called John Peters who produced the Tim Burton Batman, and when they were trying to revive Superman for a fifth film, he almost ruined the franchise, almost in the same way Joe Schumacher ruined Batman and Robin.
Yeah.
And we'll get into that later, but
yeah, that was the Superman Reborn script, right?
It was Superman Lives.
Oh.
We'll get into that later.
Yeah, we'll get into that definitely later.
Yeah, I'm glad that Christopher Nolan is involved with the new Superman franchise. It's very good to have a very creative, very original filmmaker on a franchise like this.
Absolutely, I completely agree. When I heard it, actually the first I ever heard of that there was going to be a Superman reboot, was hearing that Christopher Nolan was going to oversee it. He never really specified whether he was going to be a producer or director, so that kind of confused me a little bit, but I kind of was more happy when they took the producing kind of standpoint. And the reason I think that is because Christopher Nolan, he's a great filmmaker and he's perfect for something like Batman, and admittedly, I thought that Superman was an unusual project for him, only because he's so used to making these like psychological thriller kind of movies, which is very much what The Dark Knight and Batman Begins were, and of course with Inception. And I didn't know if that was really the right direction to take Superman, because I think they attempted that with Superman Returns, and that didn't really fare too well. But I got to thinking about it, and I just read a quick little synopsis of what they're trying to do before we started recording, and it sounds to me like they're going to explore some very cool ideas with Superman not only being like a superhero, but a superhero with that much power. And it sounds to me like they're going to take a little bit of inspiration from the recent graphic novel Earth One. And I thought that was very exciting. I love that book. And I think that's definitely good source material, especially for Christopher Nolan to do, because it is all about how Clark Kent is questioning his own powers and whether or not he can be a hero or just a tool of the villain. So that's my little standpoint on it. So I'm glad he's overseeing it. I think directing might have been too much for him, since he's also doing he's of course doing The Dark Knight Rises. Yeah, and then he's also overseeing, quite strangely, the Batman reboot that's going to come out in supposedly 2014. So, I don't know. I think he would have been juggling too much, and the film might have gotten lost in the shuffle with all this Batman stuff he's been doing. But the Batman reboot's so far off that we really shouldn't even bring it up. But so yeah, I'm glad that he got the producer's chair, though. I think we're pretty much guaranteed a good movie with that.
Yeah. Now, I would like to talk about the Legendary Pictures' decision to cast get Zack Snyder to direct the film.
Totally, yeah.
Originally, Legendary Pictures and Christopher Nolan, they were searching for directors. At one point, they even talked to Guillermo del Toro if he wanted to take up on the project, but he had to turn it down because at the time he was involved with a film adaptation of
Yeah.
Eventually failed, and he moved on to Pacific Rim. And I remember, I heard that Robert Zemeckis was considered Matt Reeves as well, the director from the guy who directed the Wrestler and the Fighter. Well, not the Fighter, though.
Warrior?
Something, I forgot. No, not Warrior. The guy who directed the Wrestler and who was supposed to direct the Wolverine.
Darren Aronofsky, the guy who directed Black Swan.
Yeah, he was considered too. And then they eventually had a meeting with Zack Snyder, and he was originally opposed to taking on a Superman reboot project because he didn't have much faith in it. He thought it was such a big responsibility.
Yeah.
So Christopher Nolan told him the idea that David S. Goyer had on how to present Superman in a modern context, and he was impressed and decided to get on board. So now this is a Christopher Nolan / Zack Snyder production.
Yeah. I was kind of polarized by the decision when I first heard it, because I saw, Watchmen to me was a good movie, but I had a lot of problems with it, and I've never seen a lot of his other movies either. I've never seen 300, so I'm not really that familiar with his work. But just based on Watchmen, he seems to have a very, very much an affinity for comic books and bringing them to the screen. And I think that's what Superman's been lacking in the past few years, especially with Superman Returns in 2006, which was, in my opinion, not faithful to the comic books at all, and was trying way too hard to be in the same continuity as the Christopher Reeves movies. And I think it's going to be very cool to finally see a very, very faithful comic book Superman, or modern comic book Superman. Because Christopher Reeves Superman, he was very faithful, but that's a very older version of Superman. And it'll be cool to see the modern comic book Superman brought to screen. I think Zack Snyder is the perfect guy for the job.
Yeah, definitely. And, well, since you're not familiar with his work, I'll tell you what he does. He is the master at slow motion. Every single one of his films, slow motion is involved. It's almost like it's part of the casting. 300, there is almost literally in every shot slow motion scene. The horses are riding in slow motion.
Yeah.
People are raising their weapons in slow motion. Just it's slow motion village.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure he's going to do the same thing with Superman, which I can actually see happening. I mean, he is faster than a speeding bullet. I can imagine him like slowing down Superman's speed
To make him look faster.
Yeah. But what I have a problem is that Zack Snyder has a tendency of using a lot of CGI more than practical effects.
Absolutely.
Most of his films are CG fest.
Mm-hmm.
You look at films like 300, Watchmen, Sucker Punch, and I can't say Legends of the Guardians because that's a CG film, but
Yeah.
most of his live action films rely on CGI much.
Yeah.
And obviously we haven't seen too much of CGI from The Man of Steel, which just looks like it's going to be, from what I've seen, it looks like a practical film. Despite that General Zod's armor is going to be fully CGI, like Green Lantern's suit was.
Yeah.
But, I hope it doesn't become a CG fest project like Green Lantern was.
Mm-hmm.
And I just hope this, balances out on practical effects and CGI. I don't want Zack Snyder to go all crazy with CG effects because this is a reboot of Superman, the new version of Superman that we're going to see for a new audience.
Yeah.
So I hope that they really pull through on the special effects department and, give out good effects too.
Yeah. I completely agree. And Zack Snyder so far looks like he's going to use a lot of CG on this film, and also Zod's suit's going to be all CG, like Green Lantern's suit was, and I'm glad they're not using any of that motion cap stuff on Superman's costume. I'm sure they might use it for the flying scenes and everything like that, but it looks like they're going to use his suit totally practical, which is a good thing. My problem is that if he goes overboard with the CG, which it kind of looks like it's going in that direction, because in every set photo from that movie so far, someone's got the motion capture suit on with the little balls on it, and or just segments of their their wardrobe has it on them. And I hope it doesn't look to the point where the whole movie looks like a video game. I think as long as it's convincing enough, and it's used in a way that would feel necessary, and not just like it's because CG is such like a mainstream special effect now that we have to use CG. Like, it should feel necessary.
Like, what?
Huh? So yeah, it's, I think that Watchmen kind of needed a lot of CG, especially for the New York they were trying to create. But,
Right.
because it was going to be in the 80s New York. Now, since this is going to take place, obviously, in Metropolis, I think that the CG could be used in a way to make a city that's not real look real. And I think that would be a great thing to do. Make Metropolis look familiar, but also a very different sort of American city. If it's used in that way, I think it'll be necessary, along with a lot of set building and everything. But I hope that they don't go too crazy with the stuff on Krypton and the stuff with Superman flying and using his powers. They don't go too crazy with the CG so it looks like a video game.
Right.
What do you think of some of the casting choices, like Henry Cavill as Superman, Amy Adams as Lois Lane?
I'd like to start with the Superman. I had no idea who Henry Cavill was when I heard that he was first casted in January. And I was actually pleased because I looked up who he was, and he actually looks like Superman.
He does.
Shave off his beard and mustache. Yeah, he looks like Superman. He's a perfect choice.
Did you see that the IMDb photo that he has? That one photo he has to the left of his IMDb page?
No, I have not.
Oh, well, that's the one I was thinking of when you said that, because he looks so much like Clark Kent in that photo. If he would have shaved off his 5 o'clock shadow he had at that point. Sorry, go on. I'm just rambling.
With Henry Cavill, I'm pretty sure he will deliver a very good Superman. And he's a natural-born British actor, and I wonder how he's going to handle Clark Kent's voice. In the past, Christopher Reeve, we've seen his Clark Kent being this really huge but sweet person, this type of man that has an innocence to him. And Zack Snyder said that one of the many reasons why he casted Henry Cavill is because there's some type of innocence to him that seems very important to the role of Clark Kent.
Yeah. Sorry.
It shows. It really shows. So, I think Henry is going to pull off Superman very well.
Yeah, I had no idea who he was either when I first heard. I read it in the newspaper the first I ever heard of it. I saw it on the front page of that he was going to be Superman. And initially I was like, well, I don't know who he is, but he sure as hell looks like Superman. I mean, he had the black hair, he had the very kind of just very like broad kind of figure. I heard people complain that he wasn't big enough to do the role. Like his shoulders weren't wide enough, and his figure wasn't muscular enough. I don't see that at all. When I saw him on that cover, I was like, yeah, that's definitely Superman. He had the physique, he had the face. Now, admittedly, I haven't seen Henry Cavill in anything where he's actually acting, so I don't know how his voice sounds or how he carries himself in an actual performance. But he sure as hell looks the part. And I'm sure that's why they cast him originally in Superman Returns, before they got Brandon Routh to play Superman.
Right.
Yeah, he was supposed to play Superman when that project was first pitched, but I think they changed it because they were trying to get someone who looked more like Christopher Reeve, and well, Brandon Routh sure had that going for him. But one thing I hope he does in his performance as Clark Kent, like you were talking about before, is Christopher Reeve played Clark as a very bumblish kind of character, and he's always been like that. But in more recent comics, he's been kind of a little bit more of an aggressive news reporter than just kind of a clumsy guy who lets people walk all over him. And that's the Clark Kent I want to see on the big screen now. Christopher Reeve completely mastered his Clark Kent and Superman dynamic, and I think that so Henry Cavill's not imitating him. He should look at the more recent comics and take that version of Clark Kent, who's the more aggressive, very competitive news reporter, instead of being the more bumblish character, so he's not just repeating what we've seen before, which we got in Superman Returns again. So I think he's going to be good too, even just talking about how he physically looks. He looks great in the costume.